Starting 2, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 611. Coming to you on Wednesday, August 20th. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football in terms of the defense. Are you ready for the defense? Or hold on.
Hot damn, that defense.
Yes, D'Anton Lynn's defense. We're going to preview it and so much more here on this episode. As always, follow us on social media at Rant Troy. Email us, ranttroyfansite.com. And our phone number is 818-643-7227. Second What's Brewing Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, along with my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia D'Artola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We did the offensive preview. We recorded that Monday night. I'm super excited to talk about the defense. I think the defense might be a little more peppier, potentially. Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are many more reasons for optimism on defense than on offense. And I think that, it feels like a unit, like a side of the ball that's heading in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Still question marks, but like I think the biggest question marks on defense pale in comparison to my biggest question marks on offense. So yeah, it's a little bit of a nicer time today, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you look at like FEI, right? Like it's not like SC was incredible defensively last year, but they were 33rd in FEI. Compare that to 2013 when you have to go all the way down to 80th. 2022, Lincoln Riley's first season at SC was 102nd. So going from those numbers up to 33 is big. And I think that SC's defense, last year, I think like the metrics speak really well to the defense, like opponent adjusted metrics and whatnot, because if you look at the gross numbers, SC's defense wasn't overall that impressive, right? Like, you look in the Big Ten, total defense, SC, in terms of yards per game was 15th. Yards per play, they were 16th. Those are things that don't exactly excite you. But I think there's context that is important there. They played a tough schedule last year, right? Like they played Penn State, which was one of the best offenses in the country, right? And they nearly beat them in overtime. So it was a defense that was much improved in D'Anton Lynn's first year at USC. Here we go into year 2. Let's start our preview of the defense by looking at the defensive tackles. Alicia, this is a position in which SC went out and got more transfer portal guys. SC loses Bear Alexander, which obviously is a big loss. They brought in a bunch of dudes last year who were seniors, your Gavin Myers, your Nate Cliftons. Not overly productive, not productive at all, really. SC struggled to create havoc plays on the defensive line. When you look at the interior line especially, the defensive ends really struggle, but we're going to start with the interior. Projected starters, we've got Devin Tompkins and Keyshawn Silver. Keyshawn Silver comes in from Kentucky, but a lot of guys to sort of rotate. Josh Jarrett comes in from Georgia. You got Jide Abasiri, who is a true sophomore. He showed glimpses last year, and I think it was pretty telling that he got some run last year as a true freshman. Kobe Pepe back for year number 5. You've got true freshmen in Floyd Picard, Cash Jacobson, Cash Amos is a redshirt junior. There's bodies there. How much more confident are you in this group on the interior side of things at defensive tackle than last year, per se?
I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot this year is just the physical difference between this group and even the one last year.
Yeah.
Those seniors that USC brought in were still not, big, huge bodies in there that could take up space, where USC now has an abundance of those, multiple, 315 plus 300. Josh Jarrett is listed on the roster at 360. Is that heavier than I would like? Yeah, but still you're talking about a 360-pound defensive lineman who can who can eat up double teams and just be a space eater. And that's something that USC hasn't had consistently in a long time. And Keyshawn Silver is sort of fits that mold perfectly in that he brings that big body. He brings experience. He brings experience at the SEC level. And I think that when you look at this defensive tackle group, everybody is helped by the presence of someone like Keyshawn Silver. At least that's what we hope.
Yeah.
And hopefully Jaw Jarrett comes into his own in that role as well. But life is just so much easier if you're Devin Tompkins. Life is so much easier if you're G.J. Abasiri, if you have a body like Keyshawn Silver next to you or a body like Jamal Jarrett next to you. Devin Tompkins was one of the pleasant surprises of last season. He still felt very undersized to be thrown out there as a defensive tackle, but he was sort of playing above his weight and continuing to develop in a way that, when he was a freshman end, he was being talked about as somebody with a lot of potential, and he sort of came into his own a little bit more and earned his starting job and earned every rep that he got. And it will be exciting to see what he's able to do this season. ESPN named him a potential sleeper breakout guy from USC. And I think they're right. I think he's somebody who, as he continues to mature physically, he's already got a lot of reps under his belt, and now he's going to be with a unit that is probably more capable of letting him do his thing.
Yeah.
In terms of just he is there to get into the backfield, to be a little bit more disruptive, and the everybody around him is going to help him potentially, take that next step if he can. And if he can't, at the very least, you have a veteran guy who we know can at least be in there and do a job. Mm-hmm. And behind him, you got someone like G.J. Abasiri, who has a higher ceiling, I think, than Devin Tompkins, who is a bigger body, but it's just a little bit less experienced. But by getting thrown into the fire as a true freshman, he's probably ahead of where I would have expected him to be at this stage, being a true sophomore. So I think USC's 2 deep here is looking significantly better, let alone discussing a 3 deep, because Kobe Pepe is now a one of those big bodies who at this stage in his career has established himself as a player that you can at least trust to go in there and step in and help you with your rotation, which I think earlier in his career, despite him having this body the whole time, maybe wasn't somebody that you could trust to be out there. And I think he's now earned that trust. Floyd Boucard has been earning rave reviews from camp as a true freshman. Do I want to see a true freshman, defensive lineman thrown into the fire like G.J. Abasiri was? No. But I think that the scenario where Boucard gets significant playing time here is one that's probably more advantageous to him than it was to G.J. Abasiri, where it was sort of a desperation, like they didn't have anybody else, and so they were just going to ride with him. Yeah. And I think they can be a little bit more tactical with when they let Boucard get his moments and start to develop him. You have Carlin Jones, who's a true sophomore. It just feels like USC is finally in a space where we can talk about a 3 and 4 deep of bodies that I don't feel are have significant limitations on their potential. Because I think over the last few years, USC has been in a situation where on the 2 deep, you're looking at, okay, well, he's really undersized, and I don't know how much of a job he could do for USC, but if they're going to have to throw him in, they're going to have to throw him in there. And now I just don't see those names. I don't think we're going to have to consider those names with this group. So I'm super excited about these defensive tackles. I really am. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I just keep going back to I know that the defense in the trenches had its serious problems last year, but I still think they outperformed the hand that they were dealt.
Yeah. Well, they weren't productive last year. The defensive line in general, right? Not just the interior guys that tackle, but the ends weren't productive either. And we're going to get to the ends in a couple minutes. But you look at, previous seasons, right? 20, was it 22 or 23 in which Tui Pelotu was incredible, right? Like
one-man wrecking machine.
Yeah. A million different negative plays.
Yeah, that was 22.
Yeah, a million negative plays. Led the country in negative plays at one point. But where did that get SC's defense? Nowhere. And so, the productivity doesn't necessarily mean effectiveness, which is difficult to quantify for a defense. That sort of warps what your brain would understand about a defense, right? So, especially on the interior where you got guys that are space eaters, like Keyshawn Silver. If he's really productive, he's going to be like a Stevie T, which we've talked about before. Stevie T in 2016 had a bunch of tackles, 53 tackles as a senior at SC in 2016, but he was also so much more involved by just being a massive space eater. So, these tackles, I think, put SC in a spot to really take a step forward. We're going to see how that goes.
Well, and Cammy in the chat says that they would put Jakeem Stewart and Floyd Boucard over Pepe, as they seem more likely to get snaps.
Yeah.
And that's probably right, although I will say I think Pepe I think you give Kobe Pepe snaps that you don't necessarily give Jakeem Stewart in the sense that, I'm putting Kobe Pepe in there if I need him to just sort of be a space eater who's against the run.
Yeah.
I'm putting Jakeem Stewart in there because I want him to get into the backfield and to be disruptive. And I think Jakeem Stewart is one who we don't have listed with this unit, but I do think it will be very interesting given his size at 290. Yeah. Physically, he does fit in, and he's listed as a defensive tackle, but we know that he will get some run at end. He's somebody that I think we're going to see across the board in terms of where they're going to deploy him, and I'm very curious about where they ultimately where they throw him in and when and how he does with all of those things. I think he's one of the most fascinating players on this entire team because he can be in so many different positions that USC wants to use him in.
Yeah.
And that's another, we're talking about a 2 and 3 and 4 deep, and we're not even factoring in the Jakeem Stewart of it all, in part because I just sort of, in my head, I'm penciling him in as more of a big-bodied option on the end. But that's absolutely correct. He could absolutely be in there, as a Devin Tompkins stand-in in that rotation. And that's super exciting because if anybody has a super high ceiling, it is Jakeem Stewart. If anybody, I think maybe the one criticism you might have of this defensive line, of the current makeup of this defensive line, is that there isn't necessarily a superstar out there. Devin Tompkins is good. I think he could have a really good season this year, but I'm not penciling him in as somebody with, All-American type potential. Even G.D. Abasiri, I'm really excited about, but I'm not sure I think of him in that sort of national name kind of perspective where, when all is said and done, Jakeem Stewart could be that guy. Jakeem Stewart could be one of those, college football people know his name straight up. And it's interesting because one of the things, ESPN today dropped their top 100 players in college football for this year, and USC doesn't have anybody in the top 100. Kamari, Ramsey, and Jacoby Lane get a little mention in the roundtable that they did about, players that got left out that maybe should have been considered in there. But one of the issues for this USC team, I think, one of the things that will help determine the ceiling of this USC team is finding those superstar guys, because I don't think this team has enough obvious, household name kind of guys currently. Mm-hmm. And so you look at guys like Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, you look at Kamari Ramsey, you look at Eric Gentry as guys who certainly could, by the end of the season, could make people really regret not having them in their preseason All-American teams or in their preseason, top 100s. But on this defensive line, I don't think there are names there that stand out as one of those guys with that level of potential. This could be an extremely effective defensive front without star power, but you throw in the potential star power of Jakeem Stewart, and I think you sort of start to ramp up the level of defense that you might end up with in the end.
Yeah, I think there's just so much more flexibility this year, too, because I think of the uptick in size. I think it's going to allow D'Anton Lynn and Sean Newitt to have sort of different looks, right? Like, how do you want the defensive line to be functioning on third down, on first down, in passing situations, run situations, etc.? All of that is sort of at their disposal. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see. Before we move on, though, Floyd Picard, did he know he's Quebecois?
No. I mean, maybe I could.
Floyd Picard sounds like a left winger for the Habs, but born in Montreal, and according to his SC bio, he grew up playing hockey.
I mean, I could have guessed. I would have guessed that he was from like Louisiana with the like sort of Cajun, but the French connection there with Montreal certainly clicks. Yeah, When was the last time USC had a Canadian player?
I don't know. That's a trivia question for somebody. Yeah. I'm sure someone's yelling, like, obviously somebody. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I have media. I'm sure the media guide has this somewhere.
I will pull this information up while we're discussing. But let's get to the defensive ends. This is where we did put Jakeem Stewart. Again, he's going to be flexible. He's going to move different spots on the defensive line. I think you're going to see him inside and outside. We've got him on the outside here with our projections. You've got Anthony Lucas and Cameron Fountain as your projected starters. Braylon Shelby definitely in the mix there on the ends. That's kind of it. You have two true freshmen, Gus Cordova and Jaden Ramos. I think those guys, could play a role here. Be interesting to see how those two guys sort of mix in, if at all, going forward, if they're going to get any sort of, run as freshmen. But at least these guys were not productive last year. Anthony Lucas, to his credit, got hurt early on in the season, had a really good LSU game where he showed glimpses of how good he can be. But he got hurt early on in the year and then missed most of the season. And then last year, Jamil Muhammad, who is no longer in the program because he's, graduated, he really was not productive at all. So what does Lucas and Fountain and Shelby and all those guys have to do to be more productive? Is it just benefiting off the tackles we talked about?
I don't think that'll hurt. I think having a better interior line certainly will help open things up for those guys on the ends. But it also just comes down to, raising their level of play. My hope would be that Anthony Lucas, now healthy, will be able to take that step. And I think that this would be the unit that I circle as the danger unit for USC, the way that I would circle the offensive line as the danger unit for USC's offense. Mm-hmm. In the sense that, if this unit has problems, then it will be maybe not catastrophic, but it will be very detrimental to the defense as a whole. And I think that this unit is walking a little bit of a tightrope towards being much closer to being in the having problems than I would like them to, because the depth is so thin. This is one of the other reasons why I will continue to put Jakeem Stewart in the defensive end picture more readily than I will in the defensive tackle picture, because if you don't factor him in as a defensive end, then you really only have three guys. And I don't like that. I don't want to go into the season thinking about the defensive ends that way. My reason for more optimism about the defensive ends than I have, say, for the offensive line is that I think there is good reason to expect players in this group to take that step forward. Anthony Lucas was playing on a bum ankle for most of last season. And when he was in there, I thought he was as good at setting the edge and being disciplined against the run as I've seen an end for USC in quite a while. But he lacked the explosiveness to get to the quarterback. And my hope would be that the explanation for that has a lot to do with the ankle. And that him back healthy will be able to be more capable of making those kinds of explosive plays into the backfield, and pairing that with his discipline and his strength on the outside as a reliable run defender, to be able to then because when he came in as that five-star transfer, like he had that capability of being a disruptive, playmaker in the backfield. And I don't think we've seen him really reach that height. But I think that there's reason to believe that he can put it all together, because I have an explanation for why he wasn't that last year. At least I hope that explanation is true.
Yeah.
Cam Fountain, true freshman, thrown into the mix last year. I thought he did a really admirable job. He comes away with 2 sacks, one of USC's leading sack getters on the season, in limited time. His ceiling, I'm so excited to see him continue to develop. And given that he was a true freshman thrown in, I think that you can expect him to continue to take that step forward and to be able to bring a higher level of productivity with a full season, with the experience he had last year, and then his just talent and ability there on the edge. Braylon Shelby also was a guy who didn't, he was sort of in and out, but wasn't sort of high up on the pecking order to start out with. But in the end, he leads USC in sacks last year, showed he can get to the quarterback, and in still like a limited role that he had last year. He was still only a true sophomore. For my money, I look at players, and when they are juniors, red shirts or true, juniors is when I want to see them start. Like, that's when I expect things to click, for them to be mentally and physically mature.
Yeah.
When they have the experience under their belt that Braylon Shelby does, like, this is the time when you expect a player to take that next step. So when I look at the 3 returning players in this group, I think there's really good reason for optimism, for an expectation that they will improve their productivity. Because frankly, last year, the productivity was bad. It was bad. Like, just straight up. USC had 21 sacks all last year. 2 of those were from Eric Gentry when he didn't play most of the year. 2 more were from Kamari Ramsey, a safety, and 3 were from Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, a linebacker. Yeah. So, your ends, your defensive linemen were not responsible for very many sacks at all last year. The group of defensive ends that returns this year was responsible for 5 total sacks. 5 total sacks. That's not good enough. Now, I expect that number to be significantly higher with Fountain and Shelby getting more regular playing time from day one. And I expect Anthony Lucas, healthy and available, hopefully he can stay that way, to then bring in some more productivity. So when I look at what USC did last year and how USC can improve from that point, I think that there's really good reason to think that is coming. The extent to which it is coming is my bigger question mark, because there's a direct correlation between the quality of USC's defense as a whole, or anybody's defense as a whole, and their ability to get to the quarterback. So when USC has 21 sacks, like, it is not a coincidence that the last time they had that few sacks was 2021, when the defense was just real bad,
Yeah.
The best USC defenses that we've seen this century, is certainly over the last 10 years, have been the ones that have been able to get to the quarterback, that have had those sort of high sack totals. So now my question for this group is, and the defense as a whole, but this group specifically, because, if you expect Kamari Ramsey can repeat 2, and Eric Gentry can certainly get more than 2 sacks, and you can expect, corners and some other linebackers to be contributing to this, the defensive tackles to be contributing to this, but the bulk of the increased production from a sack perspective needs to come directly from this unit, from the defensive ends. And that could be the difference between is USC rising from 21 sacks to 30, which I think is a much more acceptable number.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between a USC defense that has 30 sacks and one that has 40, you know? So am I expecting USC to double their sack total from last year? That's probably asking too much. But I do think there's a universe where Kamari, Ramsey and Shelby and Lucas find their way and are much more reliably productive. And then you throw in the star power potential of Jakeem Stewart and his ability to wreck people off the edge. And there is a universe where each of those guys comes away with, 5 sacks each. And now you're talking 20 sacks, it's I don't think that's a terrible, it's not an insane ask to say, is there a possibility that Lucas, Stewart, Fountain, and Shelby can combine for 5 sacks each, or can each end up with 5 sacks on the season? Like, is that asking? I don't think that's asking too much. And that is already, almost doubling your sack total in on the season from last year. And we know that the defense, the secondary is better when you're pressuring the quarterback. The linebackers are better when you're pressuring the quarterback. It's easier on the defensive front when you're pressuring the quarterback because you're forcing a team to maybe rely more on the run or, all of the things that come with that. So this is this unit will matter a hell of a lot when it comes to determining USC's improvement defensively, but also the extent to that improvement.
Do you know in the last time SC had four guys with at least 5 sacks?
Maybe 2017?
2017, yeah. Rasheem Green, Tenen Nwosu, Christian Rector, and Josh Fatu.
There you go. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, 10, 9.5, 7.5, and 6 for those guys. SC led the country in sacks that year with 46.
I mean, yeah.
And so, I think that when we talk about D'Anton Lynn and his success over at UCLA in 2013, so much of that was built on the negative plays that they made up front. 43 sacks for the Bruins in 2013. You look at things like tackles for loss. And tackles for loss, UCLA had 105 in 2023. Last year, SC struggled with that, only had 53. And
led by Eric Gentry.
And to D'Anton Lynn's credit, this was still a much improved defense last year, even without the production of making havoc plays up front. So if they can just do that, they should be able to be better and take a big step forward. It's so interesting to me because, like, you look at SC in general. I was putting together notes. We're going to be on the What's Bruins show and their Big Ten preview show. We're recording that tonight, actually. And I was doing a bunch of research for that. And, my note about SC is like, well, they led in 11 games last year. They in the fourth quarter, they lost 2 games, had a goal line stand at the end. There was the interceptions to Notre Dame. There was the Michigan game, like all these super tight games that came down to like one play at the end, right? And the general thought about SC is like, if you improve by 2%, you're going to flip a lot of those losses into wins, right? Well, how do you improve by 2%? And I think that part of that is just getting to the quarterback and making negative plays defensively. And we talked about this, a week ago, right? Like with Eric Gentry, if he is around to make one more tackle for loss every couple games throughout last season, maybe that's the 2% better that SC is, right? Like, whatever it is, I think that the production that SC gets out of the defensive ends this year will, I think, determine SC's ceiling. Not necessarily the floor, because the defense, I don't think, judged the floor last year per se. Mm-hmm. But like the ceiling. If SC is truly going to put everything together and be a 10-2, 11-1 type team, it's because the defensive ends did their part at least, right?
I can tell you right now, USC will not be a 10-2 team if they have, I'll say it, fewer than 30 sacks on the season.
I think that's fair. Yeah. SC's in a tough spot defensively because you got to improve those things production wise.
And the issue, my biggest fear here is simply health.
Yeah.
Anthony Lucas has missed time with injury. Cam Fountain and Braylon Shelby have not necessarily been asked to make it through a full season as full-time players. There's not great depth, and as excited as I am for Gus Cordova, and as much as Jaden Ramos has gotten some really good reviews, I don't want to see a lot of those players just on the strength of them being true freshmen. I don't want to see them have to get thrown into the fire just yet.
Yeah, unless they're truly the best player.
If they're playing because they are forcing their way into the rotation,
that's a different story.
By God, yes, please.
Yeah. Either way, this is the unit that I think I would pick to be really good. If you could pick one unit to be really good on defense, I think it's the defensive line. Like if you could manually pick them to do that, which of course you can kind of do over an Underdog too, because like I said, Underdog is back. It's my favorite daily fantasy app. You can go over there and join millions of Americans, several thousands of 5-star reviews over on your app store, on your phone for Underdog. It's a perfect place where you can go in with as little as $1 and win up to 5,000 times your money, which is awesome. By making picks, just use your ball knowledge, decide who you want to go higher or lower than their certain stat projections. So with sacks, you can be like, yeah, I'm feeling really good on Braylon Shelby against Missouri State. I am going to pick him to go higher than 0.5 sacks, for instance. So you can do that. This week over at Underdog, it's week 0. I'm taking Iowa State's Rocco Becht to go higher than his 1.5 passing touchdowns stat projection. I'm also taking higher on 42.5 rushing yards for Kansas State's Avery Johnson. And Stanford's Ben Gulbranson, I'm going lower on 223.5 passing yards for him. So join me, make your picks over at Underdog. Download the app today and sign up using the promo code Reign of Troy to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code Reign of Troy. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. It must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona and Massachusetts and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/forward. Play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncbgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. I made it through.
You did. Well done.
I was proud of myself there.
It was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Before we move on, we do have a super chat. Tim in LA says, Reign of Troy, 30 for 30 sacks.
Hey, you could have gone 40 for 40.
Don't.
I'm not.
Can't be
please don't.
Don't do that. No,
please don't.
Thank you, Tim. You're awesome. We love you and appreciate you. Yeah, if SC gets 30 sacks, I think that is... If SC has 30 sacks in the season...
30 sacks is a starting point for me. If you say that USC will have 30 sacks, I will feel much more confident in looking at like a 9-3 than if you told me USC will be under 30 sacks, then I will be looking for, starting to think more about a lower number there. Yeah. Tim.
He is coming with more sacks to make it 40.
Thank you.
Lisa, you're a terrible person.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
But we appreciate you,
mean
Tim.
to.
Tim, you're
We
wonderful.
appreciate you very much. Yes.
Cheers with the water. Let's get to the linebackers. I'm talking about the linebackers. SC brings back Eric Gentry and Desmond Stevens. Desmond Stevens has had absolutely rave reviews. Last year, he had a big interception. Was that Nebraska or Penn State? One of those games. One of those afternoon games.
I don't even.
He had a big interception in that game. Was it Notre Dame? I should look these things up before I just, talk about random things.
This is me realizing that I straight up don't remember anything about last season.
Desmond Stevens had an interception against Penn State. Yeah,
there you go.
40-yard return.
Yeah,
it was one of the Drew Aller picks. Yeah, I pictured it in my head because I'm like, it's a sunny game. He's going from left to right. Yeah, I could picture it. Anyways, Desmond Stevens is there. Tamara Robinson comes in from Penn State. You got Jaden Walker, Elijah Newby, Anthony Beavers, Narbonne legend is there as well. He's had an interesting career, moved around multiple DB spots and sort of landed at linebacker as sort of the veteran presence there. He played in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. But here we go. Eric Gentry back. We talked about him last week when you were doing your truths. The things that you're certain about for SC in 2025, and he said he'll be a stud, but also he will most likely miss a game. He's missed a game, at least one game in every season that he's played college football, even going back to ASU. Alicia, we've seen this before. We've talked about it before, that SC has had guys who just couldn't stay healthy.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Daniel Montebaby. What does Eric Gentry have to do to prove to you that he has overcome that? Is it not miss a single game?
No, I mean, guys miss games all the time, and it's not like a serious thing that happens. No, it's more just availability in general for the majority of the season, and it's not just missing games, because I think one of the issues with Gentry last year and the year before was that he'll start a game, you won't finish it. So I need USC needs him to be out there finishing games. The defense is just so much better when he is on the field. And it's partly it's his skill set, partly it's his size. Partly it's just, I don't know, something about the defense seems to click better when Eric Gentry is on the field. And I want to see that version of the defense more often than I see the version that is without him, I guess is sort of my point. I think the big question for this unit is there anybody who can, maybe not overshadow Gentry? I think that's asking way too much of any of these guys, but is there anybody else who can step up and become one of those players that it feels like the defense clicks because they're on the field?
Yeah.
USC has not had excellent linebacker play it's now going on 10 years. USC has struggled since Cam Smith graduated to find that go-to linebacker that just commands the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. They've brought in transfers to try and fill that role, and it's been hit and miss, more miss than hit.
Yeah.
They haven't, had guys develop the way that they would like to. They've had lost guys to transfers and injuries and all sorts of things. And linebacker has just remained one of the most disappointing position groups for USC for way too long, especially when you take into account that, growing up, the USC teams that I was watching play always had not one, but 2, 3 just monster linebackers. And I want USC to be in that position again. And, this group, I'm not going to rule out that they're not going to, is this the group that finally answers my prayers on the linebacker front? I know that Gentry is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Stevens was another of those guys that was thrown in there and kept his head above water. But I think that, like some of the offensive linemen, like some of the other players at like wide receiver and other places, like I have high hopes for him. And I am so scared of being disappointed because I have had high hopes for many. A linebacker who the year before had kept their head above water. And then when you need them to step up and be like starting quality capable, are they able to sort of bring that around? If Desmond Stevens is able to bring that around as a middle linebacker that USC can rely on, that changes the whole picture for the defense. It really does. Jaden Walker is getting really good reviews out of camp as a true sophomore. It will be exciting if he's able to fall. I think that Jaden Walker is this year's Desmond Stevens, if that makes sense. I think
sure.
this time last year, people were talking about like, keep an eye on Desmond Stevens. He might be in there and starting to get more run. And we did see that come to pass. And I think that he did a admirable job in that role when he was called upon, for sure. Jaden Walker can maybe follow in his footsteps. Tamir Robinson is a big kind of wild card player for me, as the transfer from Penn State. I don't know what to expect from him. I don't know if the timeline for him is this year or future. I'm excited to find out. Anthony Beavers, I think that he is one of those sort of veteran seniors that if he needs to get playing time, then I don't think the bottom isn't going to fall out with him out on the field. But he's also, he is who he is. So, I'm looking to sort of the newer faces to
provide depth,
and to provide excitement, to provide that spark
sure.
that USC hasn't really had outside of Eric Gentry on the defensive line. I mean, sorry, in the linebacker core.
Yeah,
so,
I think Desmond Stevens for me just is that guy. We saw Rob Ryan just absolutely drool about him in his introductory press conference back in February, and yes, SC's without Rajon Davis, who is now up in Corvallis with Oregon State.
Speaking of guys who you just looked at and every year you wanted him to take that next step.
It was going to be the breakout year, and it sort of never came, right? I think it's going to be interesting to see does someone become the Rajon Davis of depth guy who could be there and just sort of doesn't get called upon as much as you think. Maybe, I don't know.
Is it going to be Elijah Newby? I don't know.
Is it Tamir Robinson? I don't know. I don't know. You're gonna see how that goes. In the chat, West Texas Mike says, "Is this the first time we've only projected 2 starting linebackers at SC? Is this because of the shark position? I need to study up on new names." No, because D'Anton Lynn's base defense is sort of a 4-2-5. However, last year there were 6 games in which SC started with 3 linebackers. So it's a flexibility thing. So the 11th guy on USC's defense is either going to be a nickel or a strong side linebacker, which is sort of that shark role. So
that's the thing is last year USC had EMA, Cobb, and Gentry to justify having 3 guys out there. I'm going to assume more often than not those were the 3 that when USC did start with that.
Beavers was the guy who started. Gentry started once against Michigan in that spot.
Okay. Well, so then it becomes a question of does Jaden Walker earn that trust? Does Kamari Robinson earn that trust? Well, is Anthony Beavers still going to be the guy that steps in there? I mean, some of those formation things are also about matchups and all of that kind of stuff. But it's very much like you said. It's a 4-2-5. So the base defense will involve the 2 primary linebackers, and then whoever is the 3rd linebacker is more of that theoretically hybrid.
Yeah, there's going to be flexibility
something.
in Anthony Beavers, his experience as a DP.
I mean,
think
Anthony Beavers was a safety, so like,
yeah, it helps that he's got the flexibility to sort of be a Stuart Cravens type guy, who's just a weird tweener kind of thing, and gives you flexibility that way, which I think is great. Let's get to the what do we got next? The corners. Interesting one. For what it's worth, we do not have a spot for the nickel here. We're going to treat the nickel in terms of this discussion as being a third corner or a third safety, in part because it's so difficult to project what they're going to exactly do with the nickel. So many different guys have sort of been talked about as options there. But also, I think that it's just more natural to talk about the nickel as a third safety or a third corner, depending on the flexibility, depending on the look that you want. Corners, Prophet Brown hurt for at least half of the year, so we don't have him listed here. Projected starters, DJ Harvey from San Jose State, incoming transfer, and DeCarlos Nicholson, who came in from, was it Auburn? He came in from, was he? No, Mississippi State.
He was Mississippi State.
Yeah, Jay Fair was the Auburn guy.
Yeah.
Mississippi State, along with Woody Marks last year, gets an extra year as being a JC senior, unlike DJ Wingfield, I guess. But
who, as a complete aside, right before we started recording, Ryan Karchi pointed out that a West Virginia district court gave the temporary restraining order to allow a handful of West Virginia players to play with the 5-year rule sort of thrown out. Mm-hmm. So again, it just, DJ Wingfield and UCLA's guy and all that, just unfortunate to be operating in California, I guess.
Yeah.
Sucks to be them. Sucks to be USC is what the law seems to be saying.
Yeah. DeCarlos Nicholson has had rave reviews both in the spring and in fall camp. And then Chasen Johnson comes in from UCF. He came in with Trevon Reed, was the DB's coach at UCF last year. Chasen Johnson flirted with SMU and SC before going back to UCF, then ultimately deciding to be at SC. And I think he's someone who absolutely could, get his fair share of starts this year, or see time at nickel just based on the look that they want to give you. Marcellus Williams, Braylon Conley are guys to sort of keep an eye on. Other depth dudes, Tristan Castro, RJ Sermons, true freshman, 4-star corner, Isaiah Rubin there as well. What are your thoughts about the corner?
I like the depth here. I feel pretty good about the depth here. And that's good because USC, if you think about the last few years, USC has had to dig into its depth at corner for a variety of reasons, largely injury. So you want to be going into the season feeling like you've got pretty good depth. There's a solid 5 here that I feel really confident about.
Yeah.
The 5 that have sort of all been competing for starting roles. It would be 6 if Prophet Brown was healthy. Mm-hmm. And when he comes back, theoretically, it will be the 6 of Harvey, Nicholson, Johnson, Williams, and Conley with Prophet Brown in there. So that's a good group. And one thing I like when it comes to the corners and having a lot of options is that, sometimes you just don't know. The Brits say horses for courses. Sometimes you want different kinds of matchups against different kinds of receivers. One guy will be more capable of handling a certain kind of receiver than another. You have a lot of options. If somebody is struggling, you have somebody you can throw in there and replace them. So it just, having more options at corner is always something that gives me more confidence. And I like these options. I really like DJ Harvey. He was really good last year for San Jose State. And DeCarlos Nicholson, had some ups and downs, but he's a veteran guy in there who can sort of hold down the fort. Marcellus Williams, been somebody that I've been excited to see play since he got to USC, and I think this might be the year that we get to see more of him. Obviously, Trevon Reed wouldn't bring Chasen Johnson over unless he believed in him. I feel good about this group. Am I certain that this group will be really good in terms of like the level that they're able to play at? there's still questions. There's some unknowns here, but I feel good that some way you're going to roll the dice and you're going to find the right combination. Like you're going to come upon something that's going to work for this defense. So it's nice to have a unit for USC that like I'm not sweating too hard.
Yeah, and I think that like with transfers, looking at Harvey and Johnson, like this is a position where, we talk about offensive line transfers. They're so hard because chemistry and, schematics and whatever all plays a difficult role where they're really hard to get that many transfers to gel. That's something you've talked about with Hithaladay a lot, right?
Yeah.
Corners, I feel like, are the complete opposite. Corners and running backs
just might
be the most plug-inable transfers.
Well, you think about the success that USC's had. I mean, I think Greedy Vance, when he was healthy, was plug and play. Mekhi Blackman, plug and play. We're missing. There was somebody else who just came in and was plug and play.
Christian Roland Wallace.
Yeah, Christian Roland Wallace. Yeah. So, let's do it again.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the corners come to be here. Jalen Smith, played corner, played nickel, sort of bounced around. He is a guy that SC needs to replace, obviously, because
huge player to replace.
He might have been one of the most unheralded defensive players in a while, right?
I think he's going to be somebody who I think he's going to have a really good NFL career, and I think he's going to be reconsidered. His college career might be.
I could see it. So, let's move on to the safeties. This one is easy. The top one, Kamari Ramsey.
Easiest position on the field.
Yeah, you talk about in footy, first guy on the team sheet.
Yeah,
is Kamari Ramsey first guy on the team sheet?
Yes,
I think
he's first guy on the team sheet on both sides of the team.
That's what I mean. Like, in general.
Yeah,
he is the
front to back to front. He's first guy on the team sheet.
Yes. Especially because like you can make the argument that like. Based on the situation, maybe you don't want Mekhi Lemon out there. Maybe you don't want Gentry out there based on the situation. Yeah. You cannot come up with any possible situation in which you do not want Kamari Ramsey out there on the field. Kamari Ramsey was incredible last year. One of the best tackling players I've ever seen. A super sure tackler. King of the third down. Like, loved third down stops short of the sticks. That was Kamari Ramsey's kink last year, I swear. So good at that. Made negative plays, had two sacks you mentioned earlier. So good. If there's going to be an All-American on this team, I think it's Kamari Ramsey.
I agree.
Alongside of him, Bishop Fitzgerald's an interesting name to watch here. Comes in as a JC senior from NC State. And then you've got Christian Pierce, who's sort of been a solid depth rotational guy for a couple of years. Kennedy Urlacher comes in from Notre Dame, your alma mater, of course. And in the chat, Cam Life says that Urlacher could be the hybrid player in the Big Ten. That nickel/third linebacker player has to be a good tackler like Sua. Could be Urlacher. Yeah, like there's a lot of combinations here.
Well, it could be Ramsey.
It could be Kamari Ramsey. Kamari Ramsey has been talked about as a potential nickel option. Alex Graham, D. Riddick, Steve Miller, James Johnson are all incoming freshmen. Kevin Longstreet, Hassan's brother. He's on the roster too.
Yeah. The safeties are another area where I'm not sweating that much. Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald are the easiest sort of starting pair on the team to pick, I think, aside from Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. That's just gonna be the way it is. It's just gonna be them. And obviously we don't know Bishop Fitzgerald all that much, but he comes from NC State, a program that I respect defensively. I think they tend to have a really competitive defense, if nothing else, and he's done a good job for them over the last few years. So I think he can come in and certainly be I think that my expectation for Bishop Fitzgerald is no worse than Akili Arnold. Like, USC is not going to step back from where they were with the pairing of Kamari Ramsey and Akili Arnold with that group. And I think when you factor in, it sucks to lose Zion Branch, but this sort of secondary options of Christian Pierce and Kennedy Urlacher feels pretty good. I mean, I feel pretty good, at least hoping that this is an upgrade over someone like Bryson Shaw, for instance, if we're talking about a third safety or a fourth option at safety with those two. So, I think it's a good group. And I think the only intrigue here, aside from whether or not Kamari Ramsey can get recognized as an All-American because he's that good, is what kind of shuffling do they do in terms of who's on the field? Because it's very much, I think this secondary is very much going to be something where we talk about like the best five are going to play regardless of position. Mm-hmm. So it could, I can imagine a world where it's DeCarlos Nicholson and Marcellus Williams and DJ Harvey is the nickel, and then you've got Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald. I can imagine a universe where Christian Pierce is playing well enough that they say, screw it, let's have Kamari Ramsey be the nickel, Christian Pierce and Bishop Fitzgerald are our safeties, and then pick two of the corners. Alex Graham, the 4-star freshman, has gotten rave reviews out of camp. To the point where he, I think, is being factored in as a potential starter at nickel for USC. If he earns that job, then you're looking at Alex Graham, and then you have a plethora of options that you can fill the other 4 spots. I love having options in a secondary. I feel like USC has plenty of options here in the secondary, and a lot of potential to work with in addition to veteran. Sort of certainty that you get with guys like Ramsey and Fitzgerald. So, it's nice to end this on, 2 positions that I'm like, it's I'm not too worried. Again, the question.
I actually think this is a case of optimistic, Alicia.
I think the safeties are going to be fine unless, the thing that you can never control is catastrophic injury problems, which you can never control. But like, I'm not sitting here thinking like this is a potential disaster. I think they have the depth to deal with some of that, and it's one of those positions where I'm much happier to be in a position where I'm not. It's not about what's the worst case scenario and what's sort of the expectation for this is like what is the best case scenario here? Like how good can all of these guys be? Like I think. There's, I'm kind of excited about the possibility of the ceiling on this group being, really, really high.
Yes, I think the ceiling is high for the defense in general. I think the good thing too is, I think the floor is high.
Yes,
and part of that is just because. They're in the Big Ten. They're not going to face a bunch of explosive, great offenses. The only explosive offenses that they're going to face this year are Oregon on the road and Notre Dame. When you look at, they got Jeremiah Love, probably the best running back in the country, right? And Oregon has just been good for seemingly ever, right? So, those are going to be 2 tough games that SC has to play. But other than that, is there anyone's on any offense on USC's schedule that gets you rattling in your bones?
Well,
I don't necessarily think so.
Walter in the chat actually asked the question, what passing offense on the 2025 schedule scares you?
Yeah.
And it's,
Is it Georgia Southern?
Sweet Jesus, Michael.
Illinois. Realistically, it's probably Nebraska.
If Dylan, and I guess this is the thing that's always the wild card here is, if Dylan Raiola starts to live up to his potential, he will be a very difficult quarterback to go against. Illinois returns, excuse me,
Luke Altmaier.
Illinois returns a productive returning quarterback. Notre Dame, I do not know what to expect from their passing offense, to be quite honest. Their quarterback situation, CJ Carr wins that job, but he's a young guy, never been a starter. We'll see how he does. A lot of talent, but again, question marks. Certainly not Iowa. Oregon, if DJ Moore reaches his heights, I think they will be certainly formidable. I think that's probably my first choice is Oregon. Kind of scares me. It's certainly in Eugene.
Well, my thought about Oregon is that Dante Moore does not. I understand he was at UCLA and probably didn't have the best setup there, but at least taking over for DTR, he was not impressive in 2023. However, it's not like I thought highly of Bo Nix before he went to Oregon.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
This is true. And like who is it? Evan Stewart is out injured. Like if Evan Stewart was still a factor in that receiving room, I think there's certainly an elevated scariness there, but
yeah. Michigan State could be interesting. Aiden Childs is back. They got a name escapes me off the top of my head, but their leading receiver set all the freshman records in school history last year for Michigan State. So the point is comparing this to the 2023 Pac-12 slate of offenses is wild, right? Like SC had to play Nix, Penix, a host of crazy names in 2022 and 2023. 2022 they had to face what's his face that beat SC twice. The just retired from Utah guy.
Cam Rising,
yeah. DTR,
well, even
bunch of dudes.
Last year, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU,
Mendoza,
Penn State, Drew Aller. I think those were the realistic thing here is that this year's schedule, I think there's more uncertainty, but that doesn't mean that some of these teams couldn't turn out to be really formidable passing teams. I'm not ruling out Nebraska. I'm not ruling out Notre Dame. I'm not ruling out. I can't rule out anyone though, because Maryland put 373 yards and 2 touchdowns on USC. Maryland completed 39 of 51 passes against this USC defense. So who the hell knows? But
at the same time, this is very much a schedule where no one really scares you offensively. At the same time, given how at least not that optimistic I am about a lot of the offense, do I trust SC to score points against Illinois, Michigan, Iowa? Not exactly either. So SC's got to win rock fights.
Well, that is the fun-
and this is where the defense can this defense win a rock fight? Can you win a game 17-14?
The funniest damn thing is we talk about USC's offense last year just being so disappointing. Every time I look at Big Ten numbers, I laugh because USC was number 1 in the Big Ten in passing offense last year, despite it all. But USC swaps out Maryland, who was number 3, Washington, who was number 5, and Minnesota, who was number 10. And Rutgers, who was 13, Wisconsin was 14. But they swap out all of those teams for Iowa was 17th, Purdue was 16th, Northwestern was 15th. The trade in passing offense prowess, and I know things change from year to year for sure, but USC definitely traded in some at least capable passing offenses for some of the worst passing offenses in the Big Ten, at least, historically, traditionally.
Yeah, you look at passer rating. Northwestern was 101.9, and 18th, and SC gets them on the schedule. The crazy thing is you sort by highest passer rating. It's just a bunch of teams SC does not play. Yeah, Indiana, Ohio State. SC gets Oregon, but they don't have to play Penn State. They don't have to play Washington. Then they have to play Illinois, but they don't have to play Minnesota. So they play 2 of the top 7 passing offenses from last year in terms of passer rating.
And the 2 that they play, one of them has a new quarterback,
Oregon,
and so you don't know. And then the other one is Illinois with Altmaier coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. 6 teams had. We talk about how 140 is par. In terms of passer rating, even though it really probably should be 150 at this point in college football
for an actually good quarterback, actually good college football offense. Yeah.
So in 2013, how many Pac-12 offenses do you think had a passer rating of over 140
in 2013?
2013.
I'd probably say of the 12. Let's say 7.
7, yes.
Boom.
In 2012, 6 did, but there's also a 139, a 134, 138, 2 132s. Stanford was 11th in 2022 with 126. Now compare that to the Big Ten last year. 126 would have been
13th of 18.
Would have been 13th. But, like, there are several schools below them. Iowa, Rutgers, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan, Northwest. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, SC is not going to exactly face stiff competition, the stiffest competition they've ever faced in terms of passing offenses. That's good. But then now we saw last year that SC can hold those teams to 24 points, right? Can they hold them to 20 points? Can they hold them to 17? Can they hold them to 14? Can you beat a team like Iowa 17-14? Can you go into Champaign and win 16-13? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Is this defense good enough to do that? That's going to be the question. Because when the offense is, breaking in a bunch of guys on the offensive line and Jaden Mayava is not exactly the most exciting returning quarterback that SC has ever had. Yeah, like take another 5 points off the scoring defense average and take another step or 2 forward, and that's going to help bigly towards the overall 2% better thing, right? So maybe that's how you become 10% better. So, all right, let's wrap this thing up with a mailbag.
You got mail.
All right, Alicia, we've got an email from Jackson. Hey, Rant of Troy, it's been a while since I've attended a game. My family and I just moved to Arizona from Virginia. This is formerly Jackson in Virginia. And we are looking forward to attend a game this fall. Do you have any advice on parking or getting to and from the game? Or where is tailgating and other notable locations? Went to a game many years ago, so I'm not too familiar with all the logistics. Any information would be helpful. Maybe if there's a Rant of Troy meetup that weekend, we can meet in person. Thanks in advance for your help. Jackson in Arizona. Welcome to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Well, Arizona's not really the West Coast. I mean,
it's the West.
It's the West. Yes. Yeah. Tailgating on campus. But I don't know the logistics anymore. Like, do you still have to reserve a spot?
I believe you still have. I believe you have to reserve a spot.
It's been a while since we tailgated, and
members of the audience will know much more than we do in terms of, because they've made so many changes to the tailgating situation.
Yeah, and you can only tailgate in certain spots, even in Exposition Park.
Yeah,
now.
there's fewer areas to go with Exposition Park. I think that my game plan, if you're coming in for just like one game and aren't like a season ticket holder or whatever, would be to
Expo line it.
Would be to plan to take the Expo line or since I assume if you're driving from Arizona, like drive in and do what we used to do, which is like park. If you're willing to walk, park a ways away.
You can be like my dad and park on Broadway and then walk from Broadway.
Walk over.
Yeah.
And then I think we unfortunately don't have the ability to like host a tailgate, but like I know that there are tons of different sites and fan groups and all sorts of things that have tailgates that are very welcoming to people to come in.
Yeah. By the way, we talked about doing a meetup. Given how our schedules are for the next couple weeks, I don't think we'll be able to do it. So
yeah,
just a heads up.
I think we will sort of try to reassess maybe and figure things out. But yeah.
Yeah.
My work schedule is certainly very
not
all over
not
the
conducive
place.
to having a meetup. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is such a tough question. Just because so many things have changed, especially since we were going to games as fans. Like when I was a kid with my dad, park at the DMV, walk to campus, walk all up and down Trousdale, do all the stuff, walk to the Coliseum, down Menlo, kick the pole on the way, and then go to the games, right? And then walk back to the DMV at night and hope you make it. I don't think that's realistic now. The Expo line or the E line or whatever the hell Metro wants you to call it now, I think is probably a really good option because then you can stay anywhere along that line with a hotel or whatever. It drops you right off in Exposition Park. Very easy to get to. Drops you off between campus and Exposition Park. I think it's a really good option, especially as an out-of-towner. If you want to drive and park, I would probably look into seeing if you could somehow get a pass or something to park on campus. Maybe those aren't bad. Still, if they allow that, I feel bad that I don't have like great answers here, just because everything is constantly changing. Every single year, there's some new angle to this. Anything I think we say now could just absolutely be changed by people
Completely
go to the Missouri
outdated.
State game. They're like, actually, this place I used to go to is now closed, kind of deal.
I know that we have season ticket holders in the audience who do this every year, who know what's going on. So if you guys know, like in the comments, drop in and give Jackson some help here because
leave your comments and we'll pass them along next week.
Or hey, send it an email and we'll read it on the air for Jackson to coordinate everything you need to know about the current tailgating situation at USC because unfortunately we're
losers. Yeah.
No, we're not losers. We're employed in the wrong industry. Like I'm employed in the wrong industry is really what the issue is. Right. If
you have your national college football coverage on every weekend.
People out there dream of working in sports, and everybody who works in sports dreams of a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap things up there. We will be back Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific, West Texas Mike, 4 p.m. Pacific time, right here. That is 6 p.m. in West Texas. I don't even know if you're in West Texas, but I'm just letting you know anyways. We'll be here Monday. Biggest episode of the year. Probably a 2-hour episode. Season predictions. Walking through the SC's 2025 schedule. Telling you what games we're picking for SC to win and to lose. What we think the record's going to be. Talk about SC's opponents. I can tell you all the things that we've learned about the opponents. Like I learned that Purdue has one returning starter this year. One dude.
It's funny because College Football 25, the video game, has like a limit on the number of transfers you can lose in a season. And then you told me how many transfers left Purdue. And I was like, well,
Yeah. The funny thing is, we'll talk about this later, but Purdue's projected starting quarterback is a guy who transferred, did spring ball at North Carolina, and then transferred back to Purdue. So, like, he doesn't count as a returning starter. He does count as a transfer out and a transfer in. This is why they have, like, 50-plus transfers in and out. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, who knows what the hell Purdue's going to be. But we're going to talk about all of SC's opponents and all of that. So, join us Monday live on YouTube, 4 p.m. Pacific. For audio-only episode listeners, look for that in your inbox on Tuesday morning. So, and then we're going to also join the What's Brewing show for the Big Ten big roundtable preview thing. Hopefully with not that many likes and F-bombs. So check us over there
or
on their
with
feed.
Extra likes and extra F-bombs.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. Until then, we will see you.
See you.
See ya.